The first Corvin went down 11 seconds in. Not the last. The first. Orin was standing at the service entrance when the upper arm swung, bone-plated, enough force to fracture a Theskai's shoulder in 3 places, and the human raised the tray. Metal rang across the cafeteria like a diagnostic alarm, clean and sharp and final. She hadn't flinched. She hadn't shifted her weight. The tray was still level. Food still on it. He made a note, meal unspilled. He wasn't sure why that detail mattered. It did. Stay with this one. The part that stopped everyone mid-bite, that comes later. 3 rotations before the incident, Orin had pulled a low-priority file on Class 12 bipedal species for a routine intake update. One line had snagged in his processing, binocular, forward-facing vision. Predator classification, pending review. He'd flagged it for the quarterly committee and moved on. He had 12 years in Academy Medical. He thought he understood the range of what bodies could do. He had not understood. The human, cadet designation Isolde, origin, Earth, program, astrophysics, had been eating alone at 1340 station time. Reading, from the cafeteria's entry camera footage. A datapad propped against the side of a standard-issue lunch tray, unremarkable, the kind that came out of the fabricator in batches of 50. She hadn't looked up when the 4 Corvin cadets crossed the room. She looked up when the lead one put a bone-clawed hand on her shoulder. Slowly. The corner seating block was a territorial fixture, Corvin pack culture, Orin knew it, the Academy knew it, the seating advisory posted outside the cafeteria had been quietly ignored for 2 semesters. That was a policy failure. He was going to write that down too, once his hands stopped. They weren't shaking. Theskai didn't shake. His diagnostic membranes were just running amber, which was a medical response, not a personal one. At the Varenian students' table, 2 meters to the left, bioluminescence read calm blue. The Salvan cadet near the window had his gravity sense at baseline. Everything registered normal. She said nothing to the lead Corvin. Just looked at him with those forward-facing eyes, flat and patient, the kind of eye configuration that appeared in exactly one category of the Galactic species catalog. Orin had noted that in the file. Predator classification, pending. The lead Corvin shoved her shoulder. She didn't drop the tray. His upper arms came first, the dominant pair, bone plates forward, enough mass behind it to knock a Varenian off their feet. She brought the tray up one-handed and the metal rang again, harder this time, absorbing the full force of the swing without buckling. Orin checked, standard Academy fabrication, rated for 300 newtons of distributed load. The second Corvin moved on her left. She caught his weapon arm at the wrist guard, one hand, and redirected the swing wide. The load-bearing calculator embedded in his wrist guard, standard Corvin joint assist tech, read error across its display. Orin saw it from across the room. The device had never read that before. It was calibrated for Corvin grip loads. It was not calibrated for this. The Salvan cadet 2 tables away staggered, gravity sense registering the human's weight redistribution as a localized anomaly. His chair scraped back. He looked down at the floor as if the station's gravity plating had failed. It hadn't. The third Corvin swung his bone-plated forearm in a downward arc. She caught it. She twisted. The crack of the bone plate snapping free was the loudest sound Orin had heard in 12 years of Academy Medical. Louder than decompression alerts. Louder than the fracture reports he'd filed on 17 different species. The plate hit the cafeteria floor and skidded 2 meters, and the Varenian student's bioluminescence went from calm blue to full distress cascade, white-blue-red strobing across the entire room, involuntary, the biological equivalent of screaming. Every species in the cafeteria that could read bioluminescent signals flinched simultaneously. Orin did not flinch. His membranes went amber. She used the third Corvin's own momentum. Judo, the file would later identify it, a human martial discipline, origin, feudal Earth, now approximately 800 years old. She redirected his mass rather than opposing it. He hit the floor on his back and slid, and she hadn't moved her feet. Not 1 centimeter. The tray was still level. The fourth Corvin stopped. He checked the exits. All 3 of them, in sequence: left service door, main entrance, right corridor. Standard Corvin threat response, pack survival instinct, look for the route out. She was closer to all 3 doors than he was. She hadn't moved from the spot where the lead Corvin had put his hand on her shoulder. She was still in that spot. She had not moved. He sat down. 4 hands flat on the table. Then she looked at him. Direct, unhurried, binocular and forward-facing, the kind of gaze that appears in exactly one category of the Galactic species catalog. She held it for 3 seconds. He did not look away. He looked through the table instead, jaw locked, upper plates sealed tight against his skull, his species' full defensive calcification, the biological equivalent of a door slamming shut and bolting from the inside. She picked the tray up. Food still on it. Walked to an open table and sat down. Opened her data pad. That's the mild version, she said, to no one in particular. 2 tables away, a Grethely cadet had a fork frozen halfway to his mouth. He lowered it without eating. Leaned toward his companion and said, just loud enough for Oren's audio receptors to catch, and that was the calm one. Nobody laughed. In the medical bay, Oren ran the full analysis. 3 Corvin patients, hairline fractures, 1 bone plate loss requiring surgical reattachment, contusion mapping consistent with redirection force, not impact. The 4th had walked in on his own. Nothing physically wrong. He sat on the exam table and stared at the opposite wall, and his plates hadn't unlocked yet. Oren pulled the complete Class 12 file. Persistence predators. The entry was clinical enough, evolved to pursue prey across days, not seconds, exhausting targets through sustained endurance rather than single-strike force. But the line that stopped him was smaller. Human reflexive combat response time, 150 to 250 milliseconds. Corvin quad-arm coordination delay, 400 milliseconds between upper and lower pairs. She had processed and countered 4 limbs faster than they could coordinate too. She hadn't been reacting to them. She had been waiting for them to catch up. His membranes went solid red. He had never gone solid red before. 12 years. He checked his own reading twice, confirmed it was physiological and not a sensor error, and documented it in the incident report under attending physician response with the note, classification of finding, medically appropriate. It wasn't a sentence he'd written before either. The lunch tray went into evidence. Security logged it as Exhibit A, improvised defensive implement, human origin. The structural analysis came back 40 minutes later, the alloy was slightly concave where her fingers had been. Standard Academy fabrication, rated for 300 newtons. Human grip force had exceeded the rating without, as far as the incident footage confirmed, any deliberate application of pressure. She had simply been holding it. Cafeteria administration submitted a requisition for new tray material. The specification field read, Deathworld equivalent grip tolerance. The requisition officer sent it back twice asking for clarification. Both times, the cafeteria supervisor replied, see Exhibit A. All 4 Corvin cadets were reassigned to different meal rotations. The lead one formally requested species sensitivity training, which the file noted was voluntary. A 4-line advisory went up on the cafeteria wall the following morning. The last line read, seating disputes to be resolved verbally. No exceptions. Oren read it on his way in. He stood in front of it for longer than was professionally necessary. He had 14 pending intake reports. He was still thinking about 150 milliseconds. Whether she had known, whether she had understood what she was, what the file said she was, what those forward-facing eyes meant in every species catalog ever compiled, he didn't know. She had been reading astrophysics notes when it started. She had gone back to reading astrophysics notes when it ended. The tray had been ordinary. The tray was now Exhibit A. The cafeteria air felt different the rest of that evening. The ventilation logs showed nothing had changed. But Oren noticed, treating his fourth patient of the shift, that everyone who came through the medical bay was breathing a little harder than usual. He didn't document that one. Some findings don't fit the form.